Bundys Garage, Bundy here. What you see in front of you are all the tools that were used in the changing of a timing belt for a Honda J Series V6 engine. It was on a 08 Ridgeline that we did the job on. We did it yesterday. Had 100,000 miles. Picked up the timing belt component kit from rockauto.com. Came with everything we needed. Belt, water pump, tensioner, idler pulley, and the tensioner idler pulley as well. I love those kits. Those kits are great. If you guys haven't checked out rockauto.com, give them a quick glance. Love their parts. I'm not paid by them at all. I just use them quite a bit. So I'll try to make this video as short as possible. Like I said, this was done on a Honda Acura J Series V6. It'll be in your Ridgelines, your Pilots, your Honda Accords, your TLs, CLs, from 1999 pretty much to present. Honda has used this engine in quite a lot of applications. They're Honda and Acura lines. So let's see, I guess we'll just start with the left over here. My left over here. This is not necessary. You don't need this, but if you do have it, great. A 3/8 air ratchet, a 1/4 inch air ratchet, just speeds things up when you're removing bolts. You can use those. 3/8 breaker bar. We have a 3/8 ratchet, extending ratchet. I picked this up from Walmart. It's a Stanley. We have a 3/8 deep 6-wall 5/8 spark plug socket used for getting out the spark plugs. What is that? A 1-inch 3/8 extension from Harbor Freight. 14mm combination wrench, Craftsman. We have assorted 1/2 inch 3/8 extensions. See all of them that I used here. 1/4 inch 3/8, a magnet used in case you drop any of the bolts down. More 3/8 ratchets, so you're going to need an assortment of extensions. This is a 1/2 inch. This mamma jamma right here is what we used to break the crankshaft pulley bolt loose. This is the crankshaft pulley holder tool. Sorry if you guys couldn't hear that. This is the crankshaft pulley holder tool. This goes into the pulley for the crankcase, holds this in place. Then you have a big 19mm nut that comes in, and you hold this. I have 2 1/2 inch breaker bars right here. These two, both from Harbor Freight. So you put one on the end right here, just like that. Put the other one on a long extension. You hold this one in place. Usually it rests on the lower control arm. And you come in here with a 6-ton floor jack that you rested upon. I'll put video up of us doing it right now. But had to heat this bolt up. And then right back here, this is a big pipe. That's all this is a big, huge pipe. I just painted it. Used some undercoat on it and some yellow paint. But this is what I used as a cheater bar. So you'll take the end of this right here, stick it into your 1/2 inch breaker bar, and it makes your breaker bar just that much longer. And you'll see it right now as I'm doing it. Had to use an oxyacetylene torch to heat up the crankshaft pulley bolt on the Honda V6. This is my oxyacetylene torch setup. I bought this from either Lowe's or Home Depot. There's your oxygen. This is your MAP gas. You turn them both on. You get a lighter or an ignition source. One of those sparkers. Get a good flame going. First thing you want to do is start off with the MAP gas. Get that started. Get that to a decent level, and then slowly introduce the oxygen. And you'll see the flame change to a dark blue. And that's when you know you're ready to start heating up the crankshaft pulley bolt. You have your assorted gear wrenches here. This is 17mm. Also ended up using a 14mm as well. These are my 0 offset wrenches. I'll put a link in the description below where you can buy these from. I love these things. These things are great. These are Genius tools. They're located here in Ontario, California, which isn't too far away from my house. Awesome. I saw them at SEMA last year. I think this is this is the same one, Genius as well. I know I have some snap-on and I have a ratcheting one as well. But these come in very, very handy when you're dealing with the idler pulley and the tensioner idler pulley as well. So love these. 14, 17, 19 millimeter. Great tools to have. I also picked this up from Harbor Freight. I'll put a link in the description below as well. I love this little tool. This tool lets you put sockets onto this thing, and it gets you down. And I like the slim design because it lets you get into shallow areas right there. So, for example, this 10 millimeter, very shallow. So if I grab my ratchet, as you can see how much less space the head is on the Harbor Freight tool as opposed to the Stanley tool. So it just lets you get in those compact areas. I'll put a link in the description below for this one. So we went over extensions. This 1/4-inch ratchet I picked up from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I picked it up specifically for this job, and I'll show you right now why I did that. So here's a water pump off a J-Series V6. This pump is actually bad. We installed this one not on the job yesterday, on another job a couple years ago. This water pump ended up being bad when it actually warmed up. It really sounded bad. Something's wrong with the bearing inside. I'm just using this to demonstrate to you. So there's 5 10 millimeter bolts here. This sits on the side of the engine. So as you come down here, I put a 1/4-inch 10 millimeter deep, and that way I can get past this part here and get down into where the bolts reside. I just like this long extension because it's, if you have a standard 1/4-inch, you're just fighting it that much more. This just gives you a little bit more clearance to get down in there to where the bolts are hiding. So highly, highly recommend that tool. Like it a lot. So you need a sorted 1/4-inch. This one is probably 20 years old that I got from Husky. This was actually a gift from my dad, my mom and my dad when I was 16 years old. I still have it. Came in a Home Depot set. This is another Stanley I picked up from Walmart. Extensions, 1/4-inch. Alright, these DeWalt. These are used in woodworking. I always forget the name of these things. Anyways, they're big crimp. What I do with these is I will, on the front and back cams, I'll use these once I line up the belt correctly on top dead center, TDC. I'll go ahead with the belt in place. I'll go ahead, cinch this down, and put the belt in place. So I can hold the belt on the front cam, and then I can go to the back cam towards the firewall and hold the timing belt in place. So that's why I have these. Some pliers over there. Some vice grips. This is used for holding, this is just a 3/8 hose that I've had for a long time. I use this to hold spark plugs in place. So here's an old spark plug that we pulled out yesterday. So it fits nicely onto the porcelain, and that way you can guide it down into the hole and start the threads correctly, because you don't want to start the spark plugs with any kind of air tools or air ratchet. Just start them by hand. That's what I use that for. 6 millimeter hex, used for getting the bolts out on the coil packs. Just another version of it. Fits to a 3/8 ratchet. Picked this set up from Home Depot. I'm sorry, no, it says Power Torque, so this is from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I painted it yellow so I don't lose it. Hate it when I lose tools. 3/8 small ratchet, used for getting the spark plugs on the back side of the engine towards the firewall. Screwdriver, channel locks, a couple pair of flashlights we had to use. Fiberglass hammer. Then you have assorted sockets. So let me go through these. This is a shallow Mac 17 millimeter 3/8, deep 10 millimeter 1/4 inch, 14 millimeter 3/8, 14 millimeter deep 3/8, 14 millimeter standard 1/4 inch spark plug socket, 5/8, 3/8 ratchet goes into. Had a 22 millimeter 1/2 inch 6-point impact socket for the lug nuts, 14 millimeter 1/4 inch, 12 millimeter 1/4 inch deep 6-point, 10 millimeter 6-point 3/8. This tool right here is basically a long wrench. On one side here you have a 19 millimeter socket. On the other end you have a 14 millimeter. This tool is used for taking off the tension on the tensioner for the Serpentine belt, the S belt, the drive belt that runs everything, the AC compressor, the alternator, the power steering pump. So you slide this down in. It's really tight in there, so you slide, like if this was the engine, you have the body of the vehicle right here on this side. So this just goes down, gets in there nice and slim. Release the tension on the S belt with this tool. I'll put a link in the description below to this tool as well, but this tool is great if you're doing a lot of S belts or drive belts on a Honda Acura V6. It'll probably work on other foreign cars as well, but I highly recommend it. Great tool, great thing to have. In the description below I'll put a link to the DIY timing belt video that I did. I actually have 3 of them, or actually I should say I have 2 of them. One video is split into 2 parts, 2 1-hour segments. The other one's 2 hours long. One covers from 99 to 02. The other one covers 03 to 2011. So I'll put those in the description below. But no, I just wanted to show you guys before I put all this stuff away what it takes, what kind of tools you need to use. You don't need air ratchets like the one right there. You can do this strictly all by hand. Takes a little bit longer. I'll put some links in the description below as well for a I forget who makes it. Lyle. Their heavy impact hitter. Lyle. It's a 19 millimeter. So you can see where to go. So here's a standard 19 millimeter 1/2 inch 19 millimeter. Just look how much more meat is on there. So I think if I had a better gun, I actually did a video on a snap-on gun that I had, and did a review on that where I actually broke the crankshaft pulley bolt loose using that gun and this socket right here. So if you have the right gun, you could probably break it loose with this as well. But like I said, we had to use a cheater bar, 1/2 inch breaker bar, and the 50 millimeter crankshaft pulley tool for Honda Acura J-Series engines. So, but I'll look in the description below. There'll be more details on these tools, where you can pick them up from, where you can buy them at. Like I said, I just wanted to show you all the tools that we used to change out the timing belt on this Honda Acura J-Series V6. If you have found this video helpful, or any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to me at BundysGarage@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter as well. And like always, I'll keep them rolling for you.